Good morning, everybody. Can we have some? Yeah. Uh, so this session is planned as a kind of interaction with filmmakers, producers, people who are working outside the country on Malayalam film. Basically, I think a lot of people who come here have questions about how do you make a film, how do you start a film, how do you find a producer, etc. So we'll have some sharing of experience. After the sharing of experience, we will open it out to the audience for questions. I'm going to divide this into two parts. One is where we will have filmmakers, and then we will have producers and distributors, etc. on a second panel. So the first panel, I would like to invite Lijo first, okay. Onto the stage, we'll start. Next, I'll invite Mr. Vetrimaran, our guest from Tamil Nadu. Shri Kamal, well-known filmmaker from Kerala. Shri Sibi Malel. And our chairman, Shri Ranjit. And we will then call, we have also producers, Mr. Rakesh, Mr. Ranjit, Natasha, Natalia. Oh, Natalia, you come on the stage. You're a filmmaker. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, and all of the rest we'll call the next round. Yeah, so we can divide it. Is that okay? You all don't mind? Yeah? Okay. So I'll first give it to Ranjit to start the session.
നമസ്കാരം. നമുക്കിന്ന് ഈ ഒരു വേദിയിലേക്ക് ലഭിച്ചത് സിനിമയുടെ ഭാഷ തീർത്തും തിരുത്തി എഴുതി പ്രഖ്യാതങ്ങളായ ചലച്ചിത്രങ്ങൾ നമുക്ക് സമ്മാനിച്ച നമ്മുടെ വെട്രിമാരൻ ലിജോ ജോസ്, നമ്മുടെ സ്വന്തം ലിജോ ജോസ്, പിന്നെ ജന്മം കൊണ്ട് മലയാളിയായ എന്നാൽ UK-യിൽ വർഷങ്ങളായി പഠിക്കുകയും ജീവിക്കുകയും ചെയ്യുന്ന നതാലിയ ശ്യാം. നതാലിയ അവരുടെ ആദ്യത്തെ സിനിമ പൂർത്തിയാക്കി അതിൻ്റെ അന്തിമ ഘട്ടത്തിലാണ്. അപ്പോൾ ഈ മൂന്ന് പേരോടുള്ള ചോദ്യങ്ങൾ സർഗാത്മകമാവണം, ക്രിയേറ്റീവ് ആവണം. അല്ലാതെ ഒരു ഫാൻസി ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻ ആൻസറിന് അവർക്കും താല്പര്യം ഉണ്ടാവില്ല, കേൾക്കുന്ന മറ്റുള്ളവർക്കും താല്പര്യം ഉണ്ടാവില്ല. അത് നിങ്ങളുടെ കയ്യിലാണുള്ളത്. ഇപ്പോൾ നതാലിയുടെ കാര്യം പറയുമ്പോൾ വിദേശത്ത് പൂർണ്ണമായും ചിത്രീകരിക്കുന്ന സിനിമ, ആ സിനിമയുടെ പെർമിഷൻ, പിന്നെ സർക്കാർ അവിടെ നൽകുന്ന ഗ്രാൻഡ് എന്താണ്, അത്തരം കാര്യങ്ങളൊക്കെ അവരോട് ചോദിക്കാം. പിന്നെ ലിജോവിനോടും വെട്രിമാരനോടും നിങ്ങൾക്ക് എന്തും ചോദിക്കാം, അവർ ഉത്തരം പറഞ്ഞോളും. ഇത്രയാണ് ആമുഖമായി പറയാനുള്ളത്. നമ്മുടെ സമയം ഇൻട്രാക്ഷനിലേക്ക് പെട്ടെന്ന് പോകാൻ തന്നെയാണ് തോന്നുന്നത്, അല്ലേ ബീന? അപ്പോൾ ഇനി മറ്റെന്തെങ്കിലും പറയാനുണ്ടോ? ഇനി നിങ്ങളുടെ കയ്യിലാണ്, നിങ്ങൾക്കുള്ള മൈക്ക് നിങ്ങളുടെ എത്തും, അവർ ഉത്തരം നൽകുകയും ചെയ്യും. ഓക്കെ, അങ്ങനെയാണെങ്കിൽ ഒരു തുടക്കമെന്ന നിലയ്ക്ക് നമുക്ക് വെട്രിമാരനെ തന്നെ, നമ്മുടെ അതിഥിയായി എത്തിയ വെട്രിയെ വിളിക്കാം.
Finding the first producer is always the same story for everybody. So, initially I wanted to become a filmmaker because I realized that I had an urge to be creative, but no other medium was, or I was not equipped enough to express myself better than in any other medium. So I think I started trying writing scripts, and then I thought I should be a script writer. And then once I started working for my mentor Balu Mahendra sir, I realized that I could also try to be a filmmaker, and that's how it all started. And maybe because of my schooling under him, I had an idea of trying to have a middle cinema where we cater films to the mainstream audiences but not catering to the groundliness of all of us, like where we just go there to be entertained, entertainment in quotes. So to be entertained in a base way and just leave the theater. So I just wanted to question myself and question the process of filmmaking and my growth as a person, and everything I wanted to explore through the kind of stories that I choose to tell, and the time that I take to tell those stories, all of that. And I think with Visaranai I was able to do that a bit, and then after Visaranai taught me a lot, and from Visaranai I've been trying to find my voice better, and I'm trying to explore and express myself more confidently, I would say. So that is my understanding of my own self or my own journey, and going to festivals with our own films, which are not catered for a non-Tamil, non-Indian audience, is not my thing. I would like to make films from my world, from my land, for my own people, which I would be happy if it connects with the international audiences. If it doesn't connect also, I don't mind, as long as it connects with our people, our culture and our issues. So I think that is the way to look at addressing or taking our films internationally. I would say that.
ലിജോ,
നമസ്കാരം. ഇത് വലിയൊരു കഥയായിട്ട് എനിക്ക് ഇത് പറയാൻ അറിയാൻ പാടില്ല. പക്ഷേ സിനിമ, അതായത് പറയാനുള്ള കഥകളൊക്കെ വലിയ രൂപത്തിൽ അത് തിരശ്ശീലയിലേക്ക് കൊണ്ടുവരണം എന്നുള്ള വലിയ ആഗ്രഹം തന്നെയാണ് ഈ മേഖലയിൽ എത്തിക്കാനുള്ള ഏറ്റവും ഇമ്പോർട്ടൻ്റ് ആയിട്ടുള്ള റീസൺ. പിന്നീട് ഒന്നിൽ നിന്ന് വേറെ ഒന്നിലേക്ക് അങ്ങനെ മുന്നോട്ട് പോയി എന്നാണ് എനിക്ക് പറയാൻ പറ്റുള്ളൂ. പിന്നെ ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻസ് ആയിട്ട് ചോദിച്ചാൽ എനിക്ക് പറയാൻ എളുപ്പമായിരിക്കും.
ഹലോ, നമസ്കാരം. ഞാൻ നതാലിയ. So in a couple of lines, so the film that I'm working on is called Footprints on Water. Alakappan uncle did the camera and Mohan produced it. So the film is set in the UK. The film is all about a father searching for his missing daughter, but they're all illegal immigrants. So what happens to the invisible? Being an immigrant myself, I'm from Kerala, I'm a Malayali. Being an immigrant myself, from 10 years old, I've been in the UK, and I was very intrigued by the experiences around me of how illegal immigrants are and how the immigration system, the dark side of UK, which is quite unexplored. So if you were to ask me, what drives me, I'd definitely say the stories around me. I'm a big fan of realism. I'm a big fan of showing whatever is in real without the glamorization of it. So, yeah.
കൂട്ടത്തിൽ ഒരാളെ കൂടെ നമുക്ക് വേദിയിലേക്ക് വിളിക്കാം. അത് ആദ്യം ബീന ചോദിച്ചൊരു ചോദ്യത്തിന് ഉത്തരം കൂടിയാണ്, എങ്ങനെയാണ് പ്രൊഡ്യൂസറെ ഒരാൾക്ക് ലഭിക്കുക എന്നുള്ള. നതാലിയുടെ പ്രൊഡ്യൂസർ മോഹൻ നാടർ, പ്ലീസ്.
Hi, my name is Mohan. I moved to UK 7 years ago, and I've been producing films there. Nat came to me, was my first AD in one of my films, which we did, and she came with a story idea, which we liked instantly, and I said, let's produce it. So in less than 3 or 4 months, we are sitting and shooting in middle of COVID. I think we were the only one filming during the COVID period. I think she did a great job. Thank you.
നമ്മളെ സംബന്ധിച്ചോളം ഇത് വളരെ സന്തോഷമുള്ള ഒരു സെഷനാണ്. പ്രത്യേകിച്ച് വെട്രിമാരനും ലിജോയൊക്കെ കൂടി ഇരിക്കുമ്പോൾ ഇങ്ങനെ രണ്ട് ലെജൻസിനെ നമ്മുടെ ഈ സിമ്പോസിയത്തിന് ലഭിച്ചതിൽ വലിയ സന്തോഷമുണ്ട്. വെറ്റർമാരൻ ഇവിടെ നേരത്തെ IFFKയുടെ ജൂറി മെമ്പറും കൂടിയായിരുന്നു, ഇൻ്റർനാഷണൽ ജൂറി മെമ്പറും കൂടിയായിരുന്നു. അപ്പോൾ അങ്ങനെ IFFK ആയിട്ടും വളരെ അടുത്തൊരു ബന്ധം അദ്ദേഹത്തിനുണ്ട്. പുതിയ കാലത്തെ സിനിമ ഇവരിലൂടെയാണ് എന്നുള്ളതാണ്. ഇവരിൽ മീൻസ് ഈ ജനറേഷനിലെ ഒരുപാട് ഫിലിം മേക്കേഴ്സ് ഉണ്ട്. അതിപ്പോൾ മലയാളമായാലും ശരി തമിഴായാലും ശരി നമുക്കറിയാം. നമ്മുടെ ഈ ഭാഷ, സിനിമയുടെ പുതിയ ഭാഷ പുതിയ രൂപത്തിൽ അവതരിപ്പിക്കുമ്പോൾ റിയലിസം ആയാലും ശരി അത് നമ്മുടെ കൾച്ചറുമായിട്ട് ബന്ധപ്പെടുത്തിയിട്ടാണ് ഇപ്പോൾ നമ്മുടെ റീജിയണൽ ലാംഗ്വേജസ് ഒക്കെ നിൽക്കുന്നത്. അതിൽ പറയുന്ന പൊളിറ്റിക്സ് വളരെ ശക്തമായ പൊളിറ്റിക്സ് പറയുന്നു എന്നുള്ളതാണ്. ഇപ്പോൾ വെറ്റർമാരുടെ സിനിമകൾ ശ്രദ്ധിച്ചാൽ നമുക്കറിയാം. അതുപോലെ തന്നെ ഒരു വലിയ മൂവ്മെൻറ്റിനൊരു തുടക്കം കുറിച്ച ആൾക്കാർ കൂടിയാണ് ഇവിടെ തമിഴ് സിനിമയെ സംബന്ധിച്ചോളം. വെറ്റർമാരനായാലും പാരഞ്ചിത്തായാലും ആ ഒരു പുതിയ ജനറേഷൻ അവർ വലിയൊരു മൂവ്മെൻറ്റായിട്ട് മാറിയിരിക്കുകയാണ്. അത് ഇന്ത്യ മുഴുവൻ ഇപ്പോൾ ചർച്ച ചെയ്യപ്പെടുന്നു. അതുതന്നെയാണ് ലിജോ പോലെയുള്ള ഫിലിം മേക്കേഴ്സിലൂടെ മലയാള സിനിമ കഴിഞ്ഞ ഒരു 10 വർഷമായിട്ട് വലിയൊരു മാറ്റത്തിലേക്ക് വന്നുകൊണ്ടിരിക്കുന്നത്. അവരുടെ സിനിമ ഭാഷ മാത്രമല്ല, അവർ കൈകാര്യം ചെയ്യുന്ന വിഷയങ്ങൾ, അതുപോലെ തന്നെ അതിൻ്റെ രാഷ്ട്രീയമൊക്കെ തന്നെ ആ രീതിയിലാണ് അഡ്രസ്സ് ചെയ്യപ്പെടുന്നത്. അതുതന്നെയാണ് ഈ കാഴ്ചക്കാരായിട്ടുള്ള നിങ്ങൾ പുതിയ ജനറേഷൻ ഇവരെ സ്വീകരിക്കുന്നത്, വലിയ കയ്യടിയോടുകൂടി ഇവരെ സ്വീകരിക്കുന്നത് കാണുമ്പോൾ നമുക്കറിയാം അതിൻ്റെ കേരളത്തിൻ്റെ ഒരു ഓഡിയൻസിൻ്റെ ഇത്തരം സിനിമകൾ കാണാനുള്ളൊരു ആവേശം, അതൊരു വലിയൊരു സന്തോഷമാണ്. അതിൻ്റെ ഭാഗമാകുക എന്നുള്ളതാണ് ഞങ്ങളെപ്പോലുള്ളവർക്ക് ഇപ്പോൾ ചെയ്യാനുള്ളത്. വലിയ സന്തോഷം. ആർക്കെങ്കിലുമൊക്കെ ചോദ്യങ്ങൾ ചോദിക്കുകയാണെങ്കിൽ ചോദിക്കാം. അതിനുമുമ്പ് സിബി സംസാരിക്കും.
ഇല്ല, ഇത് ഈ ഒരു സെഷൻ്റെ പ്രധാന ഉദ്ദേശം പുതിയ ആൾക്കാരിൽ നിന്ന് കേൾക്കുകയാണ്. കാരണം ഞങ്ങളെയൊക്കെ നിങ്ങൾ ഒരുപാട് കേട്ടതാണ്. ഞങ്ങളെക്കുറിച്ച് കഴിഞ്ഞ 3.5 പതിറ്റാണ്ടായിട്ട് ഞാനും കമലും ഒക്കെ ഇവിടെ ഉണ്ട്. അതുകൊണ്ട് ഞങ്ങളെക്കുറിച്ച് കൂടുതൽ നിങ്ങൾക്ക് അറിയേണ്ട കാര്യങ്ങളില്ല. ഇനി എല്ലാം കേട്ട് പഴകിയ കാര്യങ്ങളാണ്. പുതിയ ആൾക്കാരുടെ ഈ പുതിയ സിനിമ രീതികൾ, അവരെങ്ങനെയാണ് സിനിമയെ അപ്രോച്ച് ചെയ്യുന്നത്, അവരെങ്ങനെയാണ് സിനിമയുടെ പുതിയ ഭാഷ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ പുതിയ സിനിമ ഒരു സംവേദനം എങ്ങനെ അവർ സാധ്യമാക്കുന്നു എന്നുള്ളതൊക്കെയും അവരിൽ നിന്ന് കേൾക്കറിയാൻ എനിക്കും താല്പര്യമുണ്ട്, ഈ തലമുറയ്ക്കും താല്പര്യമുണ്ട്. കാരണം നമ്മൾ സിനിമ എന്ന് പറയുന്ന ആ ഒരു പാഷനെ നമ്മുടെ ജീവിതത്തിലുടനീളം കൊണ്ടു നടക്കുന്ന ആൾക്കാരാണ്. ഇപ്പോഴും ആ പാഷൻ പോകാതെ കാത്തു സൂക്ഷിക്കുന്നത് ഈ പുതിയ തലമുറയുടെ സിനിമകൾ കണ്ടുകൊണ്ട് തന്നെയാണ്. അപ്പോൾ നമുക്ക് ഞങ്ങളിൽ നിന്നും മൈക്ക് പുതിയ ഈ സിനിമയുടെ പുതിയ വക്താക്കളിലേക്ക് മാറ്റാം, അവരോടുള്ള ചോദ്യങ്ങളിലേക്ക് കടക്കാമെന്ന് തോന്നുന്നു.
Please ask your questions, ask for the mic, and ആർക്കാണ് ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻ എന്ന് ഒന്ന് ആദ്യം പറയണം. കൈ പൊക്കിയാൽ മതി അല്ലേ?
Hello sir, my name is Anup. My question is to Vetrimaran sir. Sir, உங்கள் படத்தில் எல்லாமே வந்து அந்த வேர்ல்ட் பில்டிங் வந்து ரொம்ப நிஜமாகவும் ரொம்ப ரியலிஸ்டிக்காகவும் இருக்கும். Can you little bit tell about the world building or the premise of the story, how it is important?
Okay, for me, first I choose a world and then I try to understand the world, and from the world I try to find a story. I don't have a story and then go to a world and try to fit it in. And it's basically the world where I want to live for the next 2 years. If there is something that I would like to learn, explore, understand, or take it out to the world, then I go there, I be there, and I try to understand the people in the world, their issues, their problems, and then I try to make a story around it. Sometimes we might fail in telling a story or telling a good story, but capturing the world from which the story comes, I feel most of the times is important. And also I try to be fluid when it comes to story. A lot of times this has happened where we go to the sets with the story, and then an actor who's picked from that same place to do a small role will come and say, no, it doesn't happen this way here. we do it differently. Then we all wait and let him explain how it is done, he or she to explain how it is done, and then we change the narrative to fit into that world or what they feel is right or how they do it. That is that fluidity is very important, I think. Also, we don't most of the times we take actors from that same world, especially the actors in the background. They are from that land itself, that place itself, so that they are living their own lives. That adds more authenticity, I think.
I haven't seen Natalia's film yet, but both Lijo's and Vetrimaran's films, your films are rooted in the culture that you come from and that you tell stories about. And yet your films find very universal appeal because those themes are universal. Just because Mr. Ranjit talked about going international and speaking about international co-productions and things like that, do you feel there's a danger of losing something in translation when we start working with international producers, co-producers, in terms of how best to tell a story? It's for either of you.
I don't think it makes a lot of difference when you go for a co-producer from international arena. Just for the reason that when any which way you're going to tell a story, the story is going to be a human story, and the situation and the character, the placement, everything. I mean, we have to do it in such a way that when it is appealing to the global audience. So I think the cinema today is happening in that particular zone. Like everyone is making films like that only.
So would you encourage young Malayali filmmakers to seek out international co-producers so as to get a larger audience for their films? Would that be something you would encourage?
No, it's not. I don't think I have to encourage it in that way. I would say I would encourage people to make great films than thinking about going international and co-producing it. Yeah. Thank you.
I have a different take from Lijo here. For someone like me, production, I mean, any producer will have a challenge working with me. So, a co-production, an international co-production, if it's a studio setup, then I would say that it is going to take away the whole excitement of filmmaking for someone, for a rogue filmmaker like me, where I don't know what I'm going to shoot. My producers put up with all that thing because they can see the end result, or at least they have a track record. They can rely on a track record. That what I'm saying is my personal experiences. I'm not saying that this is the right way to do it. So, disclaimer here. So, for me, a co-production, when it starts thinking a studio way, then it becomes too plastic, I would say. And when you start thinking of a global audience, you will have to compromise on the ethnicity. And I think the more ethnic you become, the more international your films are going to become. There is no other way to make international films. Rather than trying to address more audiences, make films that are meaningful and will connect to the people whom you are making the films for. I think that's more important. And co-productions will work for people who are conditioned that way. You know, scripts submissions, script reading, script corrections, their suggestions, their input, corporate meetings, and so many things before they say, okay, we will give you money. Instead, I would say, we make a film our own way and then try to get a producer or distributor, international distributor on board. Like there are a lot of other, a lot of international distributors who look out for good films. Yeah, sales agents are another challenge. You give the film to sales agent, they will say, okay, we will only sell the film, and they will ask for 10% or 20% something. And I will have a friend who wants to release my film in US, and this sales agent will ask 20% of that money my friend is giving me. So it's not, again, that doesn't go well with the, what to say, small scale industry attitude like mine. So we all make, for us films are small scale only, like, as an industry. So that way, if we can get a distributor who will take our films internationally, then it's good, I feel. Instead of going in for co-production, for some people it will work where you get a grant from certain governments. They, for example, France gives, I think, 30% or 40% if you shoot more than 80% of the films there. So for some people it might work, for some stories it might work, not for all, definitely not for me.
Thank you.
So with regards having just done an international project, so one thing to mention is before I'd met my producer, around 4 or 5 years I was in development with our script. So my sister Neeta is a scriptwriter, and we had gone to a few festival labs and all that. One thing I find with the international market, just to add to both your valuable points, is that I feel that in the British industry especially, certain things they expect, like they expect the north side to be more prominent. South is very underrepresented. So for example, when I first went with my script, the character has a backstory in Kerala. They said, why not in the north? Because that's what they're used to. So we as a company, we have this vision that, rather than it being Indian cinema, British cinema, US cinema, Hollywood cinema, ideally at some point it should be world cinema as a way. So through having a film where we have Indian actors, some Indian crew with a mix of British crew, British actors, it kind of makes it quite transparent. So I'd say the best way about it, what's worked well for us here is we've made the film and we've got a mixture of crew and cast from UK. We've got a mixture of crew and cast from India. So when you're in a platform where, all the experiences come from different parts of the world, we even had ADs who were from Cuba. And it was a great exchange of learning for me. I kept learning, I'm still learning by the second. So in international films, and that's what you find, having worked in British films before as well, you get people from around the world. And, to add to the point, our international co-production is good. Like, I think in smaller scales, your vision, if you have a clear vision, you can push through it and they will listen. But if it's in a studio system where, you're going through a big studio, it's not that it's bad, it's just that sometimes it may work out better. If you're starting out and if you're debuting, maybe the 10 people in a creative production group might really help you get your vision out cleaner. So it's basically about making the choice. If it's a small scale film, then maybe do it indie way. But if it requires, like a Parasite kind of setup where you need a lot of things, then having a studio backing would be less stressful.
I'm Vishnu. Just no question. Just love Vetrimaran. Watch your movie Visarana in Goa. That moment itself, I want to see you. Just that's all. Love from Kerala.
ഈ കോ പ്രൊഡക്ഷനെ കുറിച്ച് കൂടുതൽ കാര്യങ്ങളുണ്ടെന്ന് വെച്ചിട്ടാണ് ചോദിക്കാൻ വേണ്ടിയാണ്. ഇന്ത്യ ഗവൺമെൻറ് ഇപ്പോൾ ഈ പറയുന്ന കാര്യങ്ങൾക്ക് ഒരു പുതിയ ഇപ്പോൾ ഇൻഫർമേഷൻ ഓഫ് ബ്രോഡ്കാസ്റ്റിംഗ് മിനിസ്ട്രിയുടെയും ടൂറിസത്തിൻ്റെ ഒരു മീറ്റിങ്ങിൽ ഒരാഴ്ച മുമ്പ് ഞങ്ങൾ പങ്കെടുത്തിരുന്നു. അപ്പോൾ അതിലൂടെ വന്നിരിക്കുന്ന കാര്യമെന്ന് പറയുന്നത് ഈ ഇങ്ങനെ ഒരു കോ പ്രൊഡക്ഷന് ഒരുപാട് കൺട്രീസ് നമ്മളോട് താല്പര്യപ്പെട്ടുകൊണ്ട് ഇങ്ങോട്ട് വന്നിട്ടുണ്ട്. അതിൻ്റെ ഒരു ഉദാഹരണമായി ഇന്ന് പോളണ്ടിൽ നിന്ന് ഒരു സംഘം ഞങ്ങൾ പ്രൊഡ്യൂസേഴ്സിനെ കാണാൻ വേണ്ടി കൊച്ചിയിൽ എത്തിയിട്ടുണ്ട്. അപ്പോൾ അവർ ഇൻവൈറ്റ് ചെയ്തിരിക്കുന്ന പോളണ്ടിലേക്ക് നമ്മളെല്ലാവരും ഫ്രീ ആയിട്ട് കൊണ്ടുപോയി അവിടെ ലൊക്കേഷൻസ് കാണിച്ച് നമുക്ക് ഒരുപാട് ഫെസിലിറ്റീസ് തരാമെന്ന് പറഞ്ഞ് വന്നിട്ടുണ്ട്, ഇന്ന് എത്തിയിട്ടുണ്ട്. അതുകൂടാതെ ഫിലിം ഫെസിലിറ്റേഷൻ ഓഫീസ് എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞിട്ട് ഇപ്പോൾ ഇന്ത്യ ഗവൺമെൻറ് NFDCയുടെ കീഴിൽ തുടങ്ങിയിട്ടുണ്ട്. അവിടെ അപ്ലൈ ചെയ്യേണ്ട രീതി വളരെ സിമ്പിളാണ്. അത് വളരെ എൻ്റെ കയ്യിൽ എല്ലാ ഡീറ്റെയിൽസും ഉണ്ട്, ആർക്ക് വേണമെങ്കിലും തരാം. ഇപ്പോൾ ഈ കോ പ്രൊഡക്ഷന് വേണ്ടിയിട്ടുള്ള ഒരുപാട് ഫെസിലിറ്റീസ് ഇപ്പോൾ ഗവൺമെൻറ് അനൗൺസ് ചെയ്തിട്ടുണ്ട്. അതുകൊണ്ട് ഈ നല്ല സിനിമകൾ എടുക്കണമെന്ന് ആഗ്രഹിക്കുന്നവർക്ക് വളരെ നല്ല ഫണ്ട് അതുൾപ്പെടെ NFDCയുടെ ഭാഗത്തു നിന്നും കോ പ്രൊഡക്ഷനിലും അറേഞ്ച് ചെയ്യുന്നൊരു സിസ്റ്റം ഇപ്പം മുമ്പോട്ട് കൊണ്ടുവന്നിട്ടുണ്ട്. അതൊരു ഇൻഫർമേഷന് വേണ്ടി പറഞ്ഞതാണ്.
ഒരു സെക്കൻഡ് എക്സ്ക്യൂസ് മീ, ഒന്ന് ചെല്ലു, നേരെ പെട്ടെന്ന് ഓഫ് ചെയ്ത്. സോറി.
Hello, filmmakers. So my question is, yesterday I was watching Nayata, and during the question and answer session, there was this debate on how a movie is interpreted. So since Ranjit sir, Lijo sir, and Vetrimaran sir was on stage, my question to you is, so for in Asuran, Vetrimaran sir has offered a solution towards the end where you say education is priority, and in Jallikattu, Lijo decided to show them instead of tell them something. And so even Mr. Shahi Kabir is here, and he was answering questions on how Nayat ended. So how do you think filmmakers should show something? Should they show them or should they tell them? Where do you think you should draw the line? You know, how do you see the audience? That's my question.
See, I think it's a very personal choice, and it depends on the kind of story that you're telling to the audiences whom you're telling, and irrespective of whatever the considerations may be, it's a very personal choice. It depends on the personality of the person, and there is no need for a filmmaker to give any solutions. He's not a politician, he's not a mathematician, he's not a scientist. He's an artist. He's experiencing something from the world that he lives in, and he's reflecting it. And in the process of reflecting, there is some amount of pain, joy, angst. He's angry at whatever the misdeeds that are happening. He wants to voice it out. If there is a small discussion or one small step towards what he wanted to say happens through the film, a small discussion, a discussion in a tea shop, a coffee shop, that makes the film serve its purpose, and the filmmaker is going to be very happy just with that. That's what I feel.
It's the same thing, very personal.
Hi, sir. Hi, sir. Hi, Vetriman sir. Hi, LGP sir. First of all, when is Vada Chennai 2 coming out? I think you're tired of hearing this question. But I'll ask. Second question is to both of you. So we have this diploma film at the end of our whatever film school. So there's always this debate. So some professor says, follow your heart, make purely cinema for you. Only you have to be the audience. You don't have to care about others. And some professor says this diploma film can be used to pitch to other producers. As you both directors are some people who I think represent both art and entertainment. And some of your movies are more leaning towards one. But I feel, what is your point of view? Like, should we make for art entertainment, or is it a simple answer like, should we follow your heart? Thank you.
No, all I'm saying is that when it's completely it completely depends on what you want to tell the audience. So if you want to make a point, if you want to convey a message, I mean, decide how you want to put it across. Than just trying to solve this in a very technical way, like from heart, from mind. You just do it your way. Then it will reach. I mean, do it with all the honesty you have. Then it works.
When I was a student, I thought Fellini was a mediocre filmmaker. Kurosawa did not know how to make films, and Orson Welles did not know how to finish a film. And I thought everything about that, about all the filmmakers in the world, and the world cinema was waiting for me to come and change. That's the confidence with which a student should make his film. You make the film as if you want to change the world. When you come out, then the world will teach you how to survive. All the compromises that you want to make, all the compromises that you see in any of the filmmakers' films, the world has taught us to survive. So we will survive. And sometimes we survive to our liking, sometimes we survive to their liking. But ultimately, we'll survive. But as students, you really need to make films, or you need to believe that you can make films that will change the whole world, or the whole filmmaking fraternity is going to be before you and after you. That's how as a student you should think, I feel.
Hello sir. Sir, to Lijo sir. Sir, in the cinema, there was a shift in, personally I have seen the filmmaking, the content has been shifted from, so one of your favorite, my favorite of your films is always Nayagan and definitely Double Barrel. പക്ഷേ ഡബിൾ ബാരൽ എന്നൊരു സിനിമ സാമ്പത്തികമായിട്ട് കുറച്ച് ഓഡിയൻസ് ആക്സെപ്റ്റ് ചെയ്തോ ഇല്ല എന്നുള്ളൊരു ഡിസ്കഷനൊക്കെ ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നു. അത് കഴിഞ്ഞിട്ട് വന്നൊരു സിനിമയാണ് അങ്കമാലി ഡയറീസ്. സോ അതിൽ ആസ് പേഴ്സണലി മീ, അതിൽ അങ്കമാലി ഡയറീസിൽ ഈ ഒരു മാസ് സാറ്റിസ്ഫാക്ഷന് വേണ്ടിയിട്ടുള്ള ക്രിയേറ്റിവിറ്റി ചെയ്തിട്ടുണ്ടെന്ന് പേഴ്സണലി എനിക്ക് തോന്നിയിട്ടുണ്ട്. ബിക്കോസ് ഡബിൾ ബാരലിന് ശേഷം വന്നൊരു സിനിമ, ഡബിൾ ബാരലിൽ ഒരു വലിയൊരു സാമ്പത്തികമായി പരാജയപ്പെടുന്നു. അപ്പോൾ ഇതിൻ്റെ ഈ ഒരു സർവൈവിങ് എക്സിസ്റ്റൻസിന് വേണ്ടി കുറച്ച് കോമ്പണൻസ് അല്ലെങ്കിൽ അങ്കമാലി ഡയറീസിൻ്റെ മേക്കിങ്ങിൽ ചെയ്തിട്ടുണ്ടെന്ന് എനിക്ക് പേഴ്സണലി തോന്നിയിട്ടുണ്ട്. പലപ്പോഴും ഞങ്ങളുടെ ഒരു ഗ്രൂപ്പ് ഓഫ് ഫ്രണ്ട്സ് സാറിൻ്റെ സിനിമകൾ ഡിസ്കസ് ചെയ്യുന്ന സമയത്ത് വരുന്നൊരു പോയിൻ്റാണ് നായകനും ആമേനും ഡബിൾ ബാരലും കഴിഞ്ഞ് വരുന്നു. അങ്ങനെ എന്തെങ്കിലും ഒരു സർവൈവലിന് വേണ്ടിയിട്ടോ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഒരു മാസ് ആക്സെപ്റ്റൻസ് പിന്നീട് ഒരു LJP എന്നൊരു ബ്രാൻഡ് ചെയ്യപ്പെട്ടതിന് ശേഷം പലപ്പോഴും ചുരുളിയിലും ജല്ലിക്കെട്ടിലൊന്നും ആ ഒരു ഇമയിൽ പോലും, പക്ഷെ അങ്കമാലി ഡയറീസ് എന്നൊരു മാർക്ക് കേരളത്തിൽ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ വേൾഡ് സിനിമയിൽ ഉണ്ടാക്കുന്ന സമയത്ത് ഈ ഒരു മാസ് സാറ്റിസ്ഫാക്ഷന് വേണ്ടി എന്തെങ്കിലും ചെയ്തിട്ടുണ്ടോ, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ അത് ഞങ്ങളുടെ പേഴ്സണലായിട്ടുള്ള തോന്നൽ മാത്രമാണോ എന്നാണ് ചോദിക്കുന്നത്.
എനിക്ക് തോന്നുന്നു അതായത് ഒരു സിനിമ കഴിയുമ്പോഴും അടുത്ത സിനിമയിലേക്കുള്ള ഒരു യാത്രക്കിടയിൽ നമ്മുടെ ഒരു ജനറലായിട്ട് നമ്മളിലുണ്ടാവുന്ന ചില മാറ്റങ്ങളുണ്ട്. അത് ആ സമയത്ത് നമ്മൾ കാണുന്ന സിനിമകളോ നമുക്ക് ഉണ്ടായ അനുഭവങ്ങളോ ഒക്കെ ചേർന്നിട്ട് നമ്മൾ വേറൊരു മാറ്റം നമുക്ക് ഉണ്ടാവുന്നുണ്ട്. അത് ഇപ്പോൾ 5 വർഷം മുമ്പ് നമ്മൾ എടുത്ത ഒരു തീരുമാനം ഇന്ന് നമ്മൾ ആലോചിക്കുമ്പോൾ ഏറ്റവും സില്ലി ആയിട്ടൊരു തീരുമാനമായിട്ട് നമുക്ക് തോന്നും. അതുപോലെ തന്നെയാണ്. അപ്പോൾ നമ്മളൊരു സിനിമയിൽ നിന്ന് അടുത്ത സിനിമയിലേക്ക് സഞ്ചരിക്കുമ്പോൾ നാച്ചുറലി ഉണ്ടാകുന്ന മാറ്റങ്ങൾ എപ്പോഴും ഒരു സിനിമയ്ക്ക് 2 സിനിമകൾക്കിടയിലുണ്ട്. അപ്പോൾ അതല്ലാതെ അങ്കമാലി ഡയറീസിന് വേണ്ടി ഞാൻ ഇത്തരത്തിൽ ഓഡിയൻസ് സാറ്റിസ്ഫാക്ഷൻ മനസ്സിൽ വെച്ച് എന്തെങ്കിലും ചെയ്തോ എന്ന് ചോദിച്ചാൽ ഇല്ല എന്നാണ് എനിക്ക് പറയാൻ പറ്റുള്ളൂ. പക്ഷേ അങ്കമാലി ഡയറീസ് വാസ് ദ ലാസ്റ്റ് റിസോർട്ട് എന്നെ സംബന്ധിച്ച്. അപ്പോൾ അതിൽ ഒരു തരത്തിലുള്ള ലക്ഷറീസും അഡ്വാൻറ്റേജസും ഇല്ലാതെ ഒരു സിനിമ പ്രൂവ് ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റിയില്ലെങ്കിൽ ഞാൻ ഈ സ്ഥലത്ത് നിൽക്കേണ്ട ആളല്ല എന്ന് എനിക്ക് തോന്നി. അപ്പോൾ അതാണ് അങ്കമാലി ഡയറീസ്. അതുകൊണ്ടാണ് ബാക്കി നിങ്ങളിപ്പോൾ ഈ പറയുന്ന ബാക്കി എല്ലാ സിനിമകളും എനിക്ക് ചെയ്യാനുള്ള അവസരം കിട്ടിയത്. അപ്പോൾ അത് തന്നെയാണ് എൻ്റെ ആൻസർ. ഓക്കെ, താങ്ക് യു.
Excuse me. Yes, sir. As you both have worked with technology a lot better, and Lijo sir's post during the start of the COVID pandemic was there will be a shift in filmmaking and the viewing a lot more, so we can come out of theaters and create that atmosphere again. So what is your advice to young filmmakers and independent filmmakers with less funds using technology in their films, because it is a requirement and a necessity, but the quality doesn't match up what they want to achieve?
I couldn't understand the exact meaning of your question, but I will try to repeat your question. So you're asking young filmmakers trying to make films in small budget might not be able to match the kind of technical excellence that they wanted to achieve in that film?
Basically VFX and other stuff, you know.
Okay. See, I feel every filmmaker has a story to tell, and every film has a way of being told. And if you feel a story needs to have VFX that couldn't fit into your budget, I think you need to reconsider the story that you want to tell at that point. The greatest of visual effects magic has been created by James Cameron, and for every film he waits for 10 years or 12 years because he either doesn't have the budget to do the kind of visual effects, or he doesn't have the means to do that kind of visual effects. Though the money is there, the technique has not been invented. So he invents and does it. So I think that you need to wait to tell that kind of story. And as he mentioned, one film, if you can make one film that could lead you to the next film, then you have the option to do it as your next film, or you can tell that story in the next one. I would actually say, I've been telling this for quite some time. See, filmmakers making films for theaters, all filmmakers making films for theaters is going to be an old approach. With the advent of the boom of OTT along with the COVID, every industry I feel is going to make 300, 400 films a year. I expect like next 2-3 years, Tamil will make some 600 films. Malayalam will make some 500 for 600 films. All of us are going to be making so many films. Theatrical release will be like 50, 60, 100 only, with big stars and commercially saleable directors at that point in time. All the others will have to cater to other means of expressing ourselves, and the most important aspect here is to look at expressing ourselves in the best given way possible and make use of whatever that we have, the resources we have to tell the stories that we want to tell. I feel if you feel VFX or the technical excellence or the lack of technical excellence is limiting you from telling your story, then either you need to rework on your story or you need to rethink of your strategy of filmmaking. That's it.
So I think I'm in a very different position to these fantastic filmmakers out here, because they've got their films out and you've all seen their films and you've all enjoyed their films. So for me, from a debut director's point of view, so our film is a month away from completing, and right now there's only been like little trailer things that only people within us have seen. So with this question about the technical, so as you said, it's very important that you assess your project. If it has a lot of VFX, if it has a lot of kind of a budget thing, then maybe waiting for it is the right option, because at the end of the day, for a filmmaker, for him or her, the story is always the main character. If the story comes through, and I find that when you watch films, even if the technical elements are not that great, if a story pulls through, then that's enough, because at the end of the day, it's respecting the audience for their time. And if you have given a story out, then that's good enough. And also from a debut point of view, like when you asked earlier about this passion and kind of how you go on about that, I feel like long as the filmmaker, him or herself, has a vision. Okay, this is what I want, and it can be awfully nerve-wracking. Are people going to like it, or are people not going to like it? So we think of it as, do we like it? One, and there's a lot of people in the world. Somebody's ought to like it. So you just give it your best, and for people who are maybe feeling cold feet or feeling worried, I'd just say like just do it. At the end of the day, the worst can happen is somebody not liking it, but then there's other projects as well. That's just the way we think. Thank you.
Namaste, namaskaram, vanakkam sir. My name is Shanti Rao. I am a Telugu actor. I'm doing a couple of Telugu films, a Tamil film and a Malayalam film. So this one is particularly for you both, sir, because I've been around for close to a decade. And sir, recently, Lijo sir, there was a casting call for your film, and I've sent in my profile and all, and there was a number as well, and I tried to reach you for that. And the same thing for Vetrimaran sir. I'm so sorry, I'm not accusing anyone here, but I just want a clarity on this, because I had a discussion with Beena ma'am the other day regarding how casting works here, and she asked me a question, how are you cracking roles? What I heard is that, what I heard from your team was, I'm sorry, you're not a Malayali girl.
No,
so, yeah. So, since your films are rooted, you know, you mentioned earlier that you try to bring in the cast who are local and, you know, who speak the colloquial language or who understand that language more. I mean, how is this working? Because I'm confused here. Because when it comes to established actors and, you know, mainstream actors, you know, there are amazing actors in the country who work in all the languages, and these days you have diction coaches and, you know, the people who put in the effort. But, you know, as new actors, we are ready to put in the same effort, but we just hear it right away on our face, you know, I'm sorry, you're not a Malayali or you're not a Tamilian. I've lost a lot of projects. I mean, I didn't even get an audition chance. So, yeah, please enlighten me on this, like how particular are filmmakers when it comes to the language, because I personally feel cinema in itself is a language, and maybe I am lucky enough, that's the reason I'm working in 3 languages, and hopefully I'll be working in a Kannada film as well. So, yeah, I just wanted your take on this.
We cast for the characters, for the particular roles. So at times when if a Telugu speaking person doesn't fit a role, I mean, we have to tell it directly. That's what I guess is the right way to do it.
No, I totally get that, because my sister herself is a filmmaker. So she's director of film, she's about to produce a film and direct a film. And people just come up to me and say, oh, your sister is a director. Are you working on film? It doesn't work like that. I totally understand. And I am somebody who's been around for such a long time, and it becomes so difficult to even approach you, sir. You know, like I think I got really lucky. I didn't know you guys were coming here and I'm meeting you. But I'm talking about completely new actors who are just trying to, you know, reach any filmmakers, like in general.
All I'm saying is that when nowadays it's much more easier to be visible than before. Like you don't have to try really, really hard to reach someone to prove yourself. So you have all the ecosystem where you can prove yourself. I just feel that you have to be there at the right place, the right time, and all the best.
Thank you. Okay, I'll try to take that, because there are 3 different states that I'm trying to cover here.
Yeah. See, I feel that in Malayalam it's very, the language is very essential, I think, for expressions. Say, for instance, one iota of a Malayali will take you months to match. And every language has its nuance, and it's hard for a non-native speaker to pick it up. Some people have the flair for the language. I'm not saying that the language.
Now it's all sing sound. Just imagine.
Sir, ഇത് എന്താണ് ചോദിക്കുന്നത്, because എനിക്ക് മലയാളം അറിയാം, പിന്നെ തമിഴ് കുറച്ചൊക്കെ തരും, sir. So, somebody knowing the language.
Let me finish. This is not an audition. We are discussing
I'm so
stuff.
sorry.
Sorry about this. We're just discussing. So in Tamil, earlier it used to be like there's a lot of fun being made. ஐயோ நீ தமிழ் பொண்ணா அப்போனா உனக்கு தமிழில் வேஷம் கிடைக்காது. Now if you're a Tamil girl, you don't get to act in a Tamil film. That's how it used to be. Now it's changing. See, my first 2 films, I worked with people who did not speak the language, especially my second film. She did not know anything about Tamil. Then I had to shoot all the shots in night effect, darkness, long shots. I had to do all those things. At that point, she didn't know the language. And then I started thinking that I will work with my first choice. If I'm making a Tamil film, I work with Tamil girls or Tamil speaking girls from Tamil Nadu, or Tamil speaking girl from any part of India. That is how I've graded. And it's more than this, I feel if a person fits into a role visually, if the role is proper, I think things will happen fast for me. As a filmmaker, personally, I feel that way. I don't look at all the other things. If I feel this person fits the role, then I will go with that person. That's my thing. And reaching out is very easy. My number is on all. You can just type my number and it will come. Google will tell you my number. You can just text me. I don't use WhatsApp. You can text me or mail me. And if there is any audition, people will reach out to you. As he said, today it's very easy. And all the casting directors are going to Instagram to find, where you perform for other dialogues. I forgot that name. The TikTok videos, those kind of videos. So that is where you find all the talents now. All these coordinators and casting directors going through that and saying, oh, this girl is doing well, this boy is acting well, let's audition this person. That's how it is. I know how tiring and depressing it would be. Frustrating, not depressing. Frustrating it would be. But now things are becoming easier and world is opening up. So I wish you will get the kind of roles you really want to play very soon. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
ലിജു സാർ, ചുരുളി സിനിമ ഇറങ്ങിയതിന് ശേഷം അതിന് പല വ്യാഖ്യാനങ്ങളുണ്ടായി. അതിനെക്കുറിച്ചല്ല ചോദ്യം. ഈ സെൻസറിങ് അടക്കം എല്ലാ പ്രൊസീജിയേഴ്സും കംപ്ലീറ്റ് ചെയ്ത് വന്നിട്ടും അതിനുശേഷം അതിൻ്റെ ഭാഷയെക്കുറിച്ചും മറ്റുമൊക്കെ പല ചർച്ചകളുണ്ടായി. ഈ പ്രൊസീജിയേഴ്സ് എല്ലാം കംപ്ലീറ്റ് ചെയ്തതിന് ശേഷവും ഒരു സ്റ്റേറ്റ് ടൂൾ അതിനകത്ത് വീണ്ടും ഇടപെടുന്നു. ഹൈക്കോടതി ഒരു നിർദ്ദേശം കൊടുത്ത് പോലീസ് ഈ സിനിമ കണ്ട ശേഷം റിപ്പോർട്ട് കൊടുക്കുന്നൊരു രീതി ഉണ്ടായി. അപ്പം ഒരു സ്റ്റേറ്റ് ടൂൾ ഈ പ്രൊസീജിയേഴ്സ് എല്ലാം കംപ്ലീറ്റ് ചെയ്തതിന് ശേഷവും ഒരു സിനിമയ്ക്ക് മേൽ ഇടപെടുന്നതിനെ അതിനുശേഷം കൊടുത്ത റിപ്പോർട്ടിനെ എങ്ങനെയാണ് കാണുന്നത്? ചുരുളി സിനിമ മാത്രമല്ല, ഇപ്പം ദേശീയ തലത്തിൽ നോക്കുമ്പോൾ പോലും അങ്ങനെ ഒരു സാഹചര്യം നിലനിൽക്കുന്നുണ്ട്.
അവസാനം ശരിക്കും കേട്ടില്ല, എന്താ പറയുക?
ഇപ്പം ചുരുളി ഒരു എക്സാമ്പിളായിട്ട് മാത്രം പറഞ്ഞതാണ്. ഇപ്പം ദേശീയ തലത്തിൽ പോലും സെൻസറിങ്ങിന് മുൻപ് തന്നെ ഇത്തരം ഇടപെടലുകൾ ഉണ്ടാവുന്നുണ്ട് എന്നുള്ള വിവരങ്ങളുണ്ട്.
ചുരുളിയിൽ ഞാൻ ഒരുപാട് കാലം കിടന്ന് ചിറ്റിയതാണ്. അപ്പോൾ അതിന് ഒരുപാട് ചർച്ചകളും തീരുമാനങ്ങളും അതിന് വന്ന സൊല്യൂഷൻസും ഒക്കെ ഉണ്ടായി. അതിന് മുകളിൽ എനിക്കൊന്നും പറയാനില്ല ചുരുളിയെപ്പറ്റി. അപ്പോൾ അത് ഇപ്പോൾ അതിന് വന്നിട്ടുള്ള റിസൾട്ടിലും ഉണ്ടായ ചർച്ചകളിലും ഒക്കെ ഞാൻ വളരെ സന്തോഷവാനാണെന്ന് മാത്രം പറയുന്നു. അത്രേ ഉള്ളൂ.
Hello, sir. My question is to both of you. So, you directors always see your movies in a big scale. Of course, you see your movies in a big scale. So now people prefer, not a majority, but quite a few people prefer their mobile phones to watch movies. So, Lijjo sir's Churuli movie പോലും majority people കണ്ടത് അവരുടെ മൊബൈൽ ഫോണിലാണ്, that small screen. So people always criticize these subjects. Of course, the main purpose of the film is to convey your message. So moreover that, the visual beauty or the theatrical experience or the movie the whole aspect of the movie is being ignored. What is your comment? Both of you comment about that. Beside the message conveying, people always ignore the theatrical beauty or the whole movie's beauty as a movie. So what's your opinion about that?
See, it's a generation thing, I feel, and convenience also. If I have to spend 1,000 rupees to take my family to a theater, I would like to put some 2 GB or 3 GB or whatever and watch the film on my mobile phone. So there it is convenience, economy, and then it's about a generation. Like today, you all are making, of course, I'm also making video calls, but your thought has changed. My son, you show him something and you just show him a picture, like in a photograph, he wants to zoom it in. The paper, his hand goes to zoom it in. He is conditioned that way, and their viewing experience is being conditioned that way also. So, going to a theater, watching it in big screen, of course, it is a big, it's an enthralling experience. And certain films are to be experienced that way, no doubt. But at the same time, the same films can produce the kind of impact that we got in theaters for this generation's kid on a mobile phone itself. That's my thing. As a filmmaker, if we know where our audiences are going to experience the film. Then we change the lensing, we change the perspective, we change the image size. That will have to come in over a period of time. For a theatrical release, you approach the film differently. For an OTT release or a small screen release, then you approach it differently. All these things will come. But I feel it is inevitable, and not just movies can not only be a theater experience anymore. It has to be shared. Theater has to share its space or its exclusivity of being film screening, film viewing space with other platforms as well.
അതായത് പേഴ്സണലി ഒരു ഫിലിം മേക്കർ എന്നുള്ള നിലയിൽ ഐ മീൻ ഓഡിയൻസ് എല്ലാവരും തിയേറ്ററിൽ സിനിമ കാണണമെന്ന് ആഗ്രഹിക്കുന്ന ഒരു ആളാണ് ഞാൻ. പക്ഷേ ലൈക്ക് വെട്രി സെഡ്, ലൈഫും ടെക്നോളജിയും എല്ലാം മാറിക്കൊണ്ടിരിക്കുകയാണ്. ആളുകളുടെ കാഴ്ചപ്പാട്, ഇപ്പോൾ ഒരു പബ്ജി കളിക്കുന്ന ഒരാളെ സംബന്ധിച്ച് ഒരു സിനിമ ഫോണിലിരുന്ന് കാണാമെന്ന് പറയുന്നത് ഇറ്റ്സ് എൻ ഈസി ജോബ്. ദേ ഫൈൻഡ് ഇറ്റ് കംഫർട്ടബിൾ. രണ്ടാമത്തെ കാര്യം എനിക്ക് തോന്നുന്നത്, മുൻപ് നമ്മൾ ഒരു പക്ഷേ ഡയറക്ടേഴ്സിനെയോ ആക്ടേഴ്സിനെയോ പ്രൊഡ്യൂസേഴ്സിനെയോ ഒക്കെ പിരമിഡിൻ്റെ ഏറ്റവും മുകളിൽ വെച്ചിരുന്നതിന് പകരം ഇപ്പോൾ ഓഡിയൻസാണ് അതിന് മുകളിലുള്ളത്. ദേ വിൽ ഡിസൈഡ് വെയർ ടു വാച്ച്. അത് ഫോണിലാണോ, തിയേറ്ററിലാണോ, ടി വി സ്ക്രീനിലാണോ, സിസ്റ്റത്തിലാണോ, നമ്മൾ ആർക്കും അതിൽ അവകാശമില്ല. അതായത് നിങ്ങൾ ഇവിടെ കണ്ടാൽ മതി സിനിമ, ഞാൻ ഇത്ര ദിവസം ഇവിടെ കാണിക്കും എന്നൊന്നും പറയാൻ ഒരാൾക്കും അവകാശമില്ല. അപ്പോൾ സോ this suddenly changes the whole idea of creative space, where audience can decide where they want to watch, what they want to watch, how much of it they want to watch. അതായത് അത് ഓടിച്ച് കാണണോ, പോസ് ചെയ്ത് കാണണോ, ഒരു ഫ്രെയിം മാത്രം എടുത്ത് കാണണോ എന്നൊക്കെ ഉള്ളത് അയാൾ തീരുമാനിക്കും. അപ്പോൾ സോ യു മേക്ക് ഇറ്റ് ആൻ എക്സ്പീരിയൻസ് വെയർ ദേ ഫീൽ ദാറ്റ് ദേ വോണ്ട് ടു വാച്ച് ഇറ്റ് ഇൻ എ തിയേറ്റർ. അപ്പോൾ അത് അവർ തീരുമാനിക്കട്ടെ എന്ന് മാത്രമാണ് അതിനകത്ത് ടോട്ടാലിറ്റിയിൽ എനിക്ക് പറയാനുള്ളത്. ഓക്കെ, താങ്ക് യു.
Also one more thing, with this VR and viewing experience, films are going to be immersive. I tried to watch a few stuff on VR, and like, you know, I went crazy, like turning around, looking this, looking that. And if a film is going to be given to you that way, I think that would be the biggest experience for you. Watching something, you would be living something that would influence your psyche so very much at a very personal level. So those are the next things to come. So, and it would be greater than watching it on a big screen, I feel.
സർ, രഞ്ജിത്ത് സാറിനോടാണ്. അതായത് സാറിൻ്റെ സിനിമയിൽ സ്പിരിറ്റിൽ ഒരു അന്ന് പറയാൻ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ പറയാത്തൊരു വിഷയം, കനിഹ മാഡം മോഹൻലാൽ സാറും തമ്മിലുള്ള ഒരു ഡിവോഴ്സ്ഡ് ഹെൽത്തി റിലേഷൻഷിപ്പിൻ്റെ ഒരു കാര്യം പറഞ്ഞു. പലപ്പോഴും അതുപോലുള്ള കണ്ടൻസ് പറയാനോ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ അത് ഒരു പൊതുമധ്യത്തിൽ അവതരിപ്പിക്കാനൊക്കെ മടിക്കുന്ന കാലത്താണ് അങ്ങനെ ഒരു പുതിയ കൺസെപ്റ്റ്സ് പറയുന്നത്. അപ്പോൾ എൻ്റെ ചോദ്യം എന്തെന്ന് വെച്ചാൽ, ഈ ഇപ്പോൾ ഉള്ള സിനിമകളിൽ പലതും സർവൈവിങ് കണ്ടൻറ്റോ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഒരു ഡിസ്ക്രിമിനേറ്റിംഗ് ടെറിട്ടോറിയൽ കാസ്റ്റ് അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഒരു മെജോറിറ്റി മൈനോറിറ്റിയുടെ പലപ്പോഴും നമ്മൾ സിനിമകളിലൂടെ കാണുമ്പോഴും ഈ സർവൈവൽ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ കോൺഫ്ലിക്ട്സിൻ്റെ ആണ്. അപ്പോൾ ആമീസ് എന്ന് പറയുന്ന ഒരു ആസാമി പടമുണ്ട്. അതുപോലുള്ള ഒരു കണ്ടൻറ് എടുക്കാനോ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ നമ്മുടെ ഈ തമിഴ് ഈ സദേൺ ഇന്ത്യൻ സിനിമകളിലോ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ നമ്മുടെ ഈ ഒരു ഇൻഡസ്ട്രിയിൽ ഇപ്പോൾ സാറ് അന്ന് പറഞ്ഞ സ്പിരിറ്റിൽ പറഞ്ഞ ആ ഒരു പാട്ട് ഇപ്പോൾ ഡീ കപ്പിൾ എന്നൊരു സീരീസിൽ മാധവ് സാർ അഭിനയിച്ചൊരു വളരെ നന്നായിട്ട് പറഞ്ഞൊരു വിഷയമാണത്. അപ്പോൾ അങ്ങനെയുള്ള അല്ലെങ്കിൽ പുതുതായി കണ്ടൻറ് ലഭിക്കുന്നതിനോ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ അതുപോലെ മേക്കിങ്ങിൽ ഡിഫറെൻ്റ് ആയിരിക്കാം ഓരോ മൂവീസും, പക്ഷേ അത് സിനിമ സംസാരിക്കുന്ന കണ്ടൻറ്റിൽ ഒരു ദാരിദ്ര്യം അല്ലെങ്കിൽ നമുക്ക് അങ്ങനെ ഒരു വിഷയം ഉണ്ടെന്ന് ഒരു തോന്നലുണ്ടോ സർ?
നമ്മൾ തമ്മിലുള്ള ചോദ്യം പിന്നെ ആവാം, ഇവരെ രണ്ടുപേരെയും കിട്ടില്ല. ഞാൻ തന്നെ ഈ ലിജോ ജോസിൻ്റെ പടമൊക്കെ കണ്ട് പേടിച്ചിട്ട് സിനിമ എടുപ്പ് നിർത്തിയിരിക്കുക.
സർ, ഒരു ചോദ്യമുണ്ട്. സർ ഒരു ചോദ്യമുണ്ട്. Both of you are like
I wanted to understand your question, and I asked him whether it is about films today dealing more about conflict and divide and oppression, as opposed to films that dealt with finer feelings and finer emotions of the previous years.
Actually, I asked Ranjit sir because he has told the thing of decoupling, which. So my question is like we usually speak about even in the majority of cinemas what I watched here, they have speaking about any territorial or caste or a group of conflicts or discrimination. But do we mainly focus on only? I'm not telling it should not be talked. It has to be talked and it has to be portrayed. But do we miss or do we don't have more contents? Like for example, Armies was a movie in Assami. It was a great of a new concept, and it was a journey of two people with it was really amazing. And will the directors will be like, are we not having such contents, or are we not having?
Yeah, understood. So see, every generation and every region has a compelling issue that determines how a person thinks, not just a filmmaker, how a person thinks. See, last 10-15 years, right from the beginning of globalization, we have been bombarded with big films. Like, Hollywood films have been coming here, and we are forced to compete with those big budgeted films. We did not have a means to say those things. Then how do you address it? How do you cater to your own audiences who don't want to see your films? So from here it starts into a different zone, and today's world is divided. So most of us feel that you have to choose. You are either left or you are right. There is no middle. If you say that you are middle, then you are right. So it's either left or right. So there is a time where you have to choose. You have to choose, and today the filmmakers are compelled and bold to choose, and that is why it is more about all these things. Whatever that is happening in the world is only reflecting into the films. The space for personal films has taken a back step now. Maybe once the whole political scenario changes, they will come in the front, I feel.
Over here. Greetings to all the filmmakers on stage. My question is to director Litigious Pellicer, sir. Martin Scorsese, The Wolf of Wall Street, it has up to 725 usages of a very specific F word. Quentin Tarantino is constantly known for using racial slurs in his movies. David Fincher uses lots of graphic violence in his movies. And all these filmmakers have a massive following and acceptance in Kerala, especially among youngsters. And when the same thing happens, maybe if there's an attempt in Kerala where if there's an element of nudity, graphic violence, or if the language is a little bit crude, this thing becomes questioned. It is objected, it is challenged. So do you have an opinion that free speech and freedom of expression functions a little differently over here? Is there a sense of imbalance? Is there a sense of irregularity? What's your opinion? Thank you.
ഉറപ്പായിട്ടും അത് there's definitely a difference in things happening here. That is why it's been questioned. അപ്പോൾ അത് it's based on all these years, all these centuries of how we formed as a culture. So that also is greatly involved with these kind of question appraisals and all that. But I feel that when we will slowly move into the right direction and get all the freedom for the creator, I guess. We are in the right track, so let's move in that direction.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
See, it's more about Malayalam audiences or the sense about being receptive to these things. It's about how vast or how concentrated your target audiences are going to be. That's very important. See, in Kerala or Tamil Nadu, it's a very personal expression. See, you take pride in your filmmakers, your actors, your or the actors and filmmakers' personal life. You know, actors' family pictures are being shared, and they all. Rajnikant's family is called everybody. Or they say that his name is in every ration card of Tamil Nadu. So they all take it very personally. So when you feel that everybody in the film fraternity in a very intimate way, then that breach makes you feel offended. That, okay, why is it like this? Why is this expression like this? You feel that way. The more concentrated your target audiences are, you are going to face these issues. But that shouldn't limit a filmmaker from expressing. And I feel it should be in the hands of the filmmaker to decide what to show and what not to say, what to let the audiences hear and not hear. Every few years, these things keep changing, and the normal will change. When the normal keeps changing, this also will change. Few years ago, like some 25 years ago, it was so very different. Man-woman relationship was so very different. The portrayal of man-woman relationship was so very different. Today, when you are portraying a story that happened in 1910, you need to keep in mind today's political correctness. You cannot just make a film about a man and woman living in 1910s the way they would have or the way they used to live those days. So it is all changing. With change, this also will change. And one thing I should say, with the way you started your question, none of those filmmakers are being loved and liked for what you mentioned. They have more to offer us than those things.
Sir, thank you so much for adding in, because one of the reasons what motivated my question is because a couple of years ago on this very same platform, IFFK, back in 2015, there was a film directed by Gaspar Noé, Love, and it had a massive mob mentality over here to watch that movie. And that movie, as you already know, opens with like 7 minutes of unsimulated sex scene. And at the same time, a couple of years later, there was a movie called Nude, which couldn't even get a screening over here at the IFFK. So what functions differently? Is there a sense of double standards over here? And this is done by the same, maybe the same batch of delegates or the same media. The same media persecutes one film, the same media appreciates another film. So, yes, I do understand that, man. Thank you. Yeah.
Sir, I have a question. Like, both of you are the most inspiring filmmakers of our times. Inspiring people include P.S. Vinod Raj. His debut film has made it to the Academy Awards this year. It's been screening here. So my question is, this cult following, this responsibility being a burden to your coming up films, like I know that for both of you, the filmmaking is totally personal. You are trying to tell your story, what you think, but does this feel as a burden that, this cult following, these people you are inspiring?
No responsibilities. Can't take anything.
See, I feel from one film to another film, the next film, the filmmaker is only making a film. The hype around the film, the trying to understand the person who's making the film, that's not the filmmaker's problem. It's the problem of, I shouldn't use the term problem. It's the interest and curiosity of the media and the viewers and others. We cannot be bothered about it, and then you end up taking yourself too seriously and making bad films. Why risk that?
Okay, should we?
നമ്മുടെ അതിഥികളോട് നമ്മൾ പറഞ്ഞ സമയം ഏതാണ്ട് കഴിഞ്ഞു. അങ്ങനെയാണെങ്കിൽ നമുക്ക് one last question. Okay.
My question is to Vetrimaran sir. So in Tamil cinema, when we talk about political cinema, it's very different from Malayalam cinema. Obviously, the political scenario in both these states are very different. But the prime difference is in Malayalam cinema, the political cinemas we claim to be political, they are very individualistic in nature. Like, it is more about a single person's moral conflicts and they just use the politics around it as a tool. But when it comes to your movies and Paranjit's movies or Mari Selvaraj's movies, there is a very different political class that has arrived in Tamil cinema. And it is very different from these individualistic pursuits. It's more about the politics itself. Here, the political cinema is mostly apolitical. I mean, there are exceptions. So, why do you think this happens, and why do you think this kind of political cinema is which is being appreciated in Kerala?
Okay, so I think there's a lot of things to say about this. We were talking about this while we were coming here on this same topic also. But I feel in Tamil Nadu, major critics and politicians have criticized me for making Asuran an individual story, not a community story. Ranjit is being questioned that way for one of his films with Rajinikanth. I forgot which film. But it is always there. The questions will always be asked. And there was an article written why the reason Spike Lee rejected Django Unchained is the reason we should reject Asuran. There was an article written on Asuran. So this is there. It is always there. But I feel both these lands have a different political narrative set for the past 60, 70 years. Here it is the Communist Party's strength, and there it was the Dravidian movement, and the Dravidian movement opposing the other ideologies, and then there is more of the language, the Tamil nationalist movement is there on the rise now, and there was a lot of opposition happening on those lines there, and then the Dalit narrative also gained momentum with Tirumavalavan from the early 90s. So all these have had the space to evolve and develop there. Here, I feel, okay, I should be talking about there only. So there, the space for all these other, political narratives have been created, nurtured in literature. Socially also, there is a lot of relevance and presence for all these movements, and then literature has lent itself to do that, and slowly it has also seeped into cinema. But I feel Malayalam films are making very, very relevant, unique and interesting films in all aspects. Politically also they have been very relevant. In today's stand we all need to take, you're either left or right, so that way it's
Can I have the last question? I know this is the most obvious question from me. You both are two masculine filmmakers. I mean, your films are masculine films. Have you reflected on that? Is there any thinking about what is masculinity in cinema? What is this notion? Is it time you all looked at that? Is there? It's not because I'm not saying you all don't have good women characters, etc. But there is a notion of masculinity that we see in your films. And would you like to address that? Would you think it's also part of being contemporary and contemporary politics when you address what is it in cinema that needs to be addressed with this lens?
See, we all know that whatever you grew up with, you reflect in films. So I'm a small town kid for whom the only two women you know until you are 20, in your early 20s, is your mom and your sister. That's how we all grew up. And also, one girl, you would have been in love, and that girl would be there some 100 feet away. You will be here, and one day she will wave her hand, and then the next 6 months you will survive on that. That much only. We all knew women, and that is only reflecting in the films. Unconsciously, it comes that way. But as we grow, as we evolve, as we get to know people and the political, the changes in the world. See, Periyar had told, women's rights is human rights. So these are things that have started to reflect today in all places, on all levels, and we are trying to bring that into whatever that we are doing. The workspace is also changed. Earlier, you never had girls working as ADs, and it's a rarity to have women in films other than as actors, or very rarely we see editors. No other profession was suitable for women. Now it's changing. Our workspace is changing. We have assistant directors, more number of assistant directors taking active part. Earlier, if it's a girl who's working as an AD, then she'll be looking at costumes. So that you feel it's easy for her to do. So these things are changing, and the writing also is changing, where it is more about inclusion. Not just, as you mentioned, it's not about space for women. It's about inclusion and trying to change the way we perceive women in our lives. I think it's a work in progress thing. It will start reflecting, but the younger generation will do it efficiently and effortlessly. We all will have to put in a lot of efforts, and finally we will be crucified for that also, because it is not something that we all grew up with, but we are putting in a lot of effort to move in that direction.
Yeah, I feel a male perspective comes in when a male makes a film, and putting ourselves in the shoes and the head of a woman and seeing it from their perspective, it is really difficult, I know. So like Vetri said, it's like it's always evolving in our heads. Okay, how we should see this character, or how we should see her emote towards this. So it's the same thing with women directors, I feel. So they cannot put themselves in our shoes and our heads and like portray a man. So this will always be there in films, and this debate and conflict will always exist. But I mean, any creative world, it would exist, according to me. But I'm sure that we do a lot of learning and unlearning. So on the go, it will have good eye and perspectives on these kind of characters and film women, basically, on women.
I just wanted to add something on the political thing that was spoken about, that question that was asked. So there is also a trend in Tamil Nadu where political parties gained momentum through cinema. Cinema was used as a tool for political supremacy and putting forward a narrative, an ideology into the people. So it is more of a social movement. Cinema as a medium, as a tool, has been part of a social movement, social revolution, whatever you call it. It was part of that in Tamil cinema, Tamil Nadu. So that's why Tamil cinema has got little more of that.
Sir, excuse. One last question.
Just wanted to quickly add from a women director perspective. I thought it was a fantastic question. I think it's also to do with the people that you work with. So I was on a pitch to an actor, and a very well prominent Bollywood actor questioned me back, saying, how would this be perceived if rather than me as a male character, a female character does it? So he was kind of all pro. He's like, I don't think I should do this, because if a woman does it, it would be looked in a different way. So I think when you're in a collaborative industry, when you bounce off of ideas of each other, and you're learning from other people's experiences, and you're giving your perspective and marrying together the various perspective, then it comes to a point where people can relate to it easier. So I thought it was a lovely question, and just to add to that, and I thought your answers were fantastic as well. Thank you.
Sir, one last question. Sir, here. Sir,
Thank you, Natalia.
Sir, my question is to Vetrimaran sir. Sir, in your most of your films, sorry, I'm a little bit tense. Sir, in your most of his films, you show two important things. One is most of your films, the police characters as bad guys, and second, in your most of your films, you show education as an important tool in your life. Is there anything reason behind it?
The second one doesn't need an explanation. So, the first one also doesn't need any explanation, but I need to explain. I need to explain. See, it is not about, we are talking about reformation. If a reformation happens in the policing system, it is good. That's what we are trying to speak about. In Tamil Nadu, the police don't have a union yet. And those at the bottom of the hierarchy, the kind of pressures they undergo, the kind of discrimination and oppression they go through needs to be reformed, changed, and how they become the face of a greater machinery, greater danger. That is what is being portrayed. Like, you know, it's not just the policing system that we talk about. We talk about a system that is anti-people. That's what we try to talk about or criticize.
Thank you, Natalia. Thank you, Vetri. Thank you, Lijo.